Hi, I'm Scott here once again with Abundance Coaching, where we coach you to live with passion and have abundance in life. Hey, do you ever set New Year's resolutions? Well, if the answer is no, or hey Scott, if you're going to shoot me another video on New Year's resolutions, I'm pressing stop right now, then don't stop because I'm not here to share with you how you're going to set New Year's resolutions that finally work. I have a new strategy that I want to introduce to you, and I call it the one-word commitment for the year. So it's the absolutely essential thing that you will commit to in 2015 or whatever year you're watching this video. And the cool thing about it is that it brings lightness, and you can totally do it. And I'll share with you how I successfully chose a word last year and how it just came to me, and it was the word that I just committed to, and it transformed my life in that area in that year. And I feel so satisfied and fulfilled because I chose that word. So here you go. So what you do to choose a one-word commitment is you need to actually get a bit of a form or a strategy. So if it's at the beginning of the new year or at the end of a year, then that's a perfect time for you to actually choose a word. However, you can choose this word at any time. My only caveat is that I feel that it's great to actually reassess this at a particular time in the year. And for most people, that's at the beginning of the new year. So reassess, and then I say choose a new word at that time. Okay, so let's bring some lightness to this. New Year's resolutions suck, don't they? Well, yeah, sometimes they succeed. But a lot of you that are watching this right now are just like, I'm over it. I'm done with it. And how do I know this? Because I interviewed dozens of my clients and other people that have told me this, and I've experienced it as well. At the beginning of the year, we have all these ideas about how we're going to change our weight, we're going to get out of debt, we're going to spend more quality time with our families, we're going to do this and that and the other thing, our credit cards aren't going to be there, we're going to clean our office, we're going to get the stress of organization out of the way. We're finally going to go get that gym membership, and it will help this time. There's a lot of things that we do. Now, those things are admirable, and you should do them. However, what we've found and what studies have shown is that most people quit their goals by the end or the beginning, really, of January. Why at the beginning? Because within the first week or two, you've already broken a pattern, and all of a sudden, by the end of the month, you're like, oh, I'm so far off. Oh, forget it. And then you don't even think about it. And of course, life hands us all kinds of stresses and all kinds of challenges and obstacles and competing forces that just try to draw us in different ways. And of course, we get caught up in these different things, which is not an excuse, but it's often what happens. And then all of a sudden, we reassess our resolutions that we did set at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, and we're like, oh man, what a massive disaster that was. Oh well, a new year's coming. And then all of a sudden, you've looked 10 years down the track, and what's changed? And it's a bit disappointing, isn't it? So, let's bring some motivation to this. How would you feel if you succeeded and you killed at making a real, authentic commitment this year, and at the end of the year, you could come back around to it and say, wow, how cool was that? I made it, I did it, I achieved this major thing that's so important to me. So here's how you can do this. This is what's worked for me. So last year, at the beginning of the year, I went through some soul searching, and I say last year because it was 2014, the beginning of the year. And I was getting ready to do my regular thing that I often do with my clients at the beginning of the years. Is I set some new goals, we set some resolutions, I had some strategies, of course, including the SMART technology, which you're probably familiar with, and we'll talk about a little bit in a little bit as well. And I was excited, but I wasn't, because I was a bit fed up with resolutions like you probably are. And what I wanted to do was come up with a way that I could authentically choose a word for myself, and that I can help somebody authentically choose a word for themselves so that they can commit to that thing, whatever it is, and have it be their theme basically for the year. Now this might sound, wow, okay, well how simple is that? Yeah, it is simple. And I believe that some of the simplest strategies are the best strategies, aren't they? So yeah, choose one thing. Okay, well, you can press stop if you want. Now in the video, go choose a word, put it up on the board, and commit to it. That's really it. That's what the challenge is. Now, if you're interested in getting a little bit more detail or structure around that challenge, you can watch on. So here's what I've done. Last year, I chose a word. Now, I was just new into Australia, just moved into Australia, and I was just getting my business off the ground and running in Australia. I moved from Canada to Australia, and my wife and I were growing our family. We just decided and feel spiritually led to actually move from Canada and then move our 2 little boys and our baby to be, and of course Nicole and myself, to Australia from Canada. Now we were very new in Australia at the beginning of 2014, and I felt in my mind that determination or drive or something like that was what I needed, because I needed determination and I needed to go for it, right? And that's a great quality, it's a great value. And I started to go for it, and then as I was crafting this one-word commitment idea for the year, I stopped myself and I was like, okay, there's got to be a new way. And really I started to come up with an acronym, right? Because acronyms, I feel, are really a good way to remember things. And I've often used the SMART strategy, which works great in a lot of ways. And the SMART, of course, is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So I thought, you know what if we chose a SMART strategy that worked for this as well? And it was something that worked. And I started off with stretch, right? Because that just made sense. It's something that would stretch you. And then I moved on with the M, with motivation, something that would motivate me, right? And then I continued on from there. But really what happened was as I was just going through this stretch part, right? What's something that'll stretch me? I feel like God and the spiritual part of me came through to say, hey, stop. And I felt I had this conversation with God where it was like, Scott, if you choose determination or drive or action, like, that's cool, but wouldn't it be awesome if you chose something that's just more meaningful, that'll have a lasting impact? And I would love to refine you in this way and have you choose thankfulness. And I sat with that. I'm like, wow. What if I chose to be more thankful? I was like, okay. Feels good. I'm centered around this. Okay. Then I measured up with the other parts of the acronym, and really it all fit and it was aligned. Because some of you I know want to measure things, of course, right? And the M worked. The M for me was motivation. So it motivated me, and the A worked because that was abilities and attitude. And the R worked because it's being radical and taking a risk. And the T worked because it's the right thing. And I thought, wow, okay. So this is the word, thankful. So I want to bring you through that acronym here and go in a little bit more depth for you. So S is for spiritual and stretch. So spiritual is the most important part, I feel, because as you noticed with me, is that it really all came together in the spiritual, and that I just measured it with the rest of the acronym. Because sometimes we have it in our head that we want to do a certain thing, or we should do a certain thing, but spiritually, something deep inside of you is already knowing what the word is. So if you bring your intention and set it to bear to know and understand what this commitment will be, that's something that's already inside of you. The knowing will come out and it will present itself. So you have to believe that and have expectancy that there's a knowing inside of you that will actually come out, and that will be the right thing. Now, to measure that, because measuring is important, go through this strategy, right? Does that word stretch you? Stretch is a great word, right? Stretch. Okay? Does that word, stretching, what does that mean? Stretch, well, it's something that pulls you. So last year when I chose thankful, yeah, by heck it stretched me. Like, sure, I told my clients about journaling and gratitude, and I chose to do gratitudes and journals, but this was something of a bigger nature. And man, all through the year it stretched me, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment when I get to the M. So stretch, does it actually pull you, make you be better? So if it's something that actually causes you to actually bring something out and just be better, to be your authentic, amazing best, that's what would be stretching, right? So spiritual and stretch for the S, okay? You got it? S? Okay, so M. M. M is for motivate. Motivation. Motivation's powerful, right? We're going to get to a little bit of self-motivation in a little bit here when we get to some power habits at the very end. But when you are motivated by a goal, you're motivated by something that's really powerful. There's something that's great that comes in that. Hey? Yeah. There's something amazing that comes in with motivation. Because when you're motivated, then you go towards it and you have that why that draws you back. And then when you fall down, or you feel that sinking feeling, or you feel like you need to persevere, you got something that'll drive you. Motivation has that like momentum power, hey? So it's something that motivates you. And that is really good, isn't it? Because it brings some lightness to this whole thing. Like, it doesn't have to be something that you hate. It can be something that you're interested in, that you like, that can draw in that motivation. Now, it's something where you feel there's an urgency and that's the right thing. Then motivation, you have to let it work. You have to let it be a motivator. And of course, you probably heard what the main motivators in life are, right? Pain and pleasure. Sometimes pain is a great motivator. It's great for you to have and experience that pain and a little bit of fear as well. Because that pain can draw in the best qualities in you. Like they say about the tea bag, it only works when it's in hot water. The same way, motivation can work, do amazing things when you have some pain in your life. Some things that aren't enough. Because you're looking at those things that you don't have. And you're saying, okay, well, what can we do to create the life that I do want? And of course, pleasure is another great motivation too, because when you have the pleasure factor, you have that thing that you really could want in pleasure, then you can go towards that thing too. And you can have pleasure being a motivation because you know that when you achieve a certain thing, that you'll get a certain thing, right? When you achieve the car, whatever it is that you want, the freedom will come. So there's lots of different ways to look at motivation, but that's the M. Now the second part of the M is milestones. So this is along the way. I want you to think in advance, right? Just like Stephen Covey talks about in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Principles, start with the end in mind. So think about the milestones that you're going to make along the way. So the milestones can be like, oh, hey, like when I measure at this point every single month, at the beginning of the month, I can assess myself with a new milestone. And then shoot another video, I can write it down, I can journal about it, or else there's a weight category that goes along with it, or there's something where I can put it up and I can put sort of a grid or checkpoints on where I can measure my success and celebrate milestones as I achieve certain milestones. Or milestones in a project, if you look at a project manager, right, when he creates a milestone, there's a completed portion that they can look back and say, okay, from here to here was a completed portion. When building a house, a milestone is the foundations are all poured and complete. All the concrete work is done, right? Next milestone is that the shell of the house is built. All the shell is done, right? Next milestone is that the roof is put on. All the roof is done. Milestone complete. Next milestone, all the walls inside are done. You get the point. So in your goals, you'll be able to set milestones. All right. So the A, ability. So what do you mean ability, Scott? Well, let's just bring in ability this way. You are able to do immeasurably more than what you probably think that you can do. Now, I believe that spiritually, You're created to do magnificent things greater than what you probably think that you can do. And also, I believe that you probably haven't seen the most expansive side of you yet. So your abilities are usually measured up based upon the experience of whatever you've had before in your life. So, set your targets far because your abilities are grand. Now, to talk about abilities in a different frame of mind, it is important to take a look at your abilities, right? And to be able to have other people to look at the different aspects of what is going on in your life as far as your talents, or to assess your character, for instance. One example of this is American Idol or Australian Idol or X Factor or some of these talent shows that are on television. And sometimes the coaches or the judges that are on the other side, they're actually doing these things. And they're giving a report back to the person that just sang the song. And they're telling them, well, you know, hey, you got a lot of work to do. Or in some not so good situations, they're telling you, it's like, you're just not good, I'm not choosing you. Or if you're Simon Cowell, you're telling them really naughty things, aren't you? And I sometimes watch these shows and I'm like, ah! But at the same time, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, you know what, I heard it. And 1,000 other people heard it. Now that person has two choices. Because they can't let that person steal their dream, because only they have the ability to actually relinquish their dream. So they can go on and they can go and relook at whatever the criticism was, or get the feedback. They can go refine their craft, whatever it is. Or they can really look at the feedback there and they can say, hey, you know, it's like maybe something else is actually more my thing. And that's okay. We all have unique talents and abilities. We all have things that we strive for, we hone in, or we master. And growth is a part of life. We need to grow. So, you know, I'm not perfect at these video things. And I watch some guys that do videos like what I'm doing right now, and I think, wow, they're just so succinct and they're so on target. And I don't know if you felt like at times, like, Scott, get to the point or something like that. But I'm honing in this craft of being good at video. I'm not the best yet. I'm definitely honing in on mastering it, but it's not something that I'm totally arrived at. And I don't think that you ever arrive, because you're always setting new goals and milestones and striving to hit different targets. So when you're looking at your one-word commitment, look at the abilities that you have and then assess, take inventory. Even ask some people that know you very well, hey, I'm thinking about this word. How do you think it measures up? What do you think about this word? You know, this word could be, you know, freedom, or it could be fun, or it could be adventure, it could be, you know, singing. It could be action, or fortitude, or, you know, it could be something practical like delegating, you know, like delegating to contractors or other people, you know. There's lots of different things that it could be, right? So, the other part of A, so ability and then attitude. So you need to focus your attitude on this goal. Why? Because if your attitude isn't focused on this goal and zoned in on this goal, then there's very little chance for it to succeed. And if your attitude also isn't of a positive nature, there's very little chance for it to succeed. So hone in on a positive attitude with this goal and let yourself be expanded because you have a positive attitude with this. And that attitude will really help you just to foster growth with this goal. And as you go along the year, you just continue to look at attitude and choosing the right attitude to be able to pursue this goal, whatever it is. Okay? So S, spiritual and stretch. M, motivate and milestone. A, ability and attitude. R is for radical and risk. Why radical? Because it's extreme, man. It's extreme. Look up the word in the dictionary if you want. Check it out on your computer. Type it in. Radical. Extremist. Somebody who's doing something that's extreme. Hey, you know what? In the positive connotation of radical, you're doing something that's absolutely out there. Why? If you want to do something, you might as well blow the lid off the thing, right? So I want you to go out and just crush this thing. Now, 365 days is a long time. So if you're committing to it, it's like a vow. That's why we call it the one-word commitment. It's not just some old goal. It's not some old wish. It's a commitment. So if you're going to commit to it, the only way that you're really going to succeed at it and keep that motivation is to be radical about it. And just go be extreme. Like if you really want, right? If you really want health to be your commitment for the year, then you might have to be radical because you might be overweight and you might have a heart condition or there might be some health problems coming your way. And you're going to have to be radical and just like get digging in with whatever it is. If your business is slowing down, or maybe you need to actually make a transition and move, or maybe your relationship patterns have not been good and you've been dating the wrong guys or women, and all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, I need to do something radical and cut through that thing and just make a massive shift. And if you're not extreme about some things, right, you're going to let anything get to you. Like the old Zig Ziglar quote, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for anything. And why do you stand for something? You stand for this commitment because it's important to you, right? So you're choosing this commitment because it's deeply ingrained and important to you. So it's radical and it's so important to you that you're going to succeed at it no matter what. There's nothing that's going to hold you back. So you're choosing to be radical about this darn thing. Okay, what's the other part of it? Radical / risk. So radical / risk. Well, what is risk? Risk is taking a look at the doubts that could possibly be there, the angles that you could possibly go and say, oh, you know what, I'm constructing ways for this to actually work, but you know what, there's uncertainty involved. And when you have risk, there's always an element of uncertainty. You want to measure that, but at the same time, you know that if you don't take a step and you just stay where you are, you're going to sink. Okay? So you're going to have to take a risk. Okay? I watched the movie Castaway yesterday. And who's watched that? Yeah? I can see you holding your hands up. Hey, Tom Hanks did a bang-up job in that movie. It was just incredible. So I want to bring your attention to one scene. So here he is. He's, of course, crash-landed, and he's been on this island for 4 years. Now, the first year, actually the first probably couple days that he was there, he saw light way in the distance. And he had this tiny little rubber dinghy, and he had this long stretch of ocean, right? But far out, there was actually the break. The break was actually coming. It was quite far out. It was probably like half a kilometer out. And he was paddling towards it, and these waves were so huge, and of course it was breaking on the coral. So Tom Hanks is going in this little rubber dinghy towards these massive waves, and as they're crashing, he gets past one, and they crash, and huge wave after huge wave comes, and he gets past another one, and all of a sudden, these massive waves come, and all of a sudden he gets crushed down. And he loses his inflatable dinghy because it gets punctured by the coral, and he actually gets jabbed by the coral, and here he is back on the beach. 4 years passed. He's just surviving. He's found a way to fish. He's found a way to actually make home. He's staying alive. But one day, he realizes, hey, I've got to make a plan. I've got to make an action. He had this little piece of drift, something that came in, a little piece of plastic. It was like part of a portaloo that he was going to use for a sail. And he decided I was going to take a risk. I could stay here and basically try to survive and probably eventually die because nobody even knew where I was. Nobody thought I was alive. He was just there existing. And he made this raft. And as he made this raft, he had to get past that same fear that he had before, which was that huge set of waves that would just break on that coral reef that was about half a kilometer off the shore. And he took that risk, and he boldly went and just got through those breaks. And sometimes maybe you need to get through the breaks. You need to actually take a massive risk, because if you're just going to sit alone, you sit on the island, right? You sit on the island, what happens? You sit on the island. You just get stagnant. You just survive. Now, if you want to thrive in life, you want to go for something, you want to go, and you want to get out and have the potential to get saved or to be set free or to have anything, something, then you just got to go. Gotta build your sail. Gotta build your raft. Take your risk. So in this one word commitment, do something that will be risky. Because if you just sit still on the island, so you may never know what's out there if you actually go and you take your chance. Okay? So R for radical and risk. Woo! Okay. T. T is so important, right? T is the right thing. The right thing. Like, it's got to be the right thing, doesn't it? And why, it sounds silly, why is it so simple? It's like, well, you could choose the wrong thing and then go for a whole year committing to the wrong thing and either fail at it or say, Scott, you suck, man, because you sent me on this wild goose chase on this one thing that just didn't give me anything, right? Or you could do the right thing and you could just totally feel invigorated and alive and compelled and just drawing for the new thing. So choose the right thing. And again, how do you know that? Well, I believe at the beginning, the spiritual thing, the inner knowing will be in you, and it will actually help you, guide you towards the right thing. Okay? So choose the right thing. See, because in seasons, sometimes it might feel like this is the right thing, but it's out of season. It's not the right season. It's not the right time. You want to do the right thing in the right time. So last year, the right word for me was being thankful, and it transformed me. And how did it transform me? It transformed the way that I looked at life. I set milestones for myself where I'd actually start measuring it, actually start writing thankful notes every day about different things I'm thankful for. And then I actually made it my prayer, my inner dialogue with myself. And then when my kids or something happened that was frustrating in the house, I just thought to myself, oh yeah, just be thankful. Look how blessed you are, man. I put thankful notes all over the house. I had them all over, on my mirrors, above my door, on my computer. You can see it on the computer screen here still. Thankful. I had it over here on my computer. I had it everywhere. And I saw it all the time. So oftentimes what would happen, because I built this I brought this into my consciousness that I'd think about, something negative, and all of a sudden I'd see this thankful note, because I'd always be tuned in for where the thankful note was subconsciously. All of a sudden it's just like it was all around me. And then when things would happen, like my vehicle would break down, and the report from NRMA would be that, oh yeah, it would cost money, and possibly even I'd have to, replace the whole engine because the gasket, was failed, and might have cost a lot of money. And I was like, what, I'm just expecting for a good report. And I'm going for that good report, and sure enough, I got that good report. But in the meantime, I'm singing about giving thanks. Things like this happen routinely, every day, all the time for me. And it wasn't like this big rosy picture of life. In the midst of hardships, I found new ways to actually just be thankful in the places where I was at. And I know that this message that I believe God brought me is going to sit with me and help me as I actually continue with this process, with this journey of being thankful as I move on and move forward in my life. So the right thing. So again, the acronym is spiritual, specific for S. Motivation and milestones for the N. Ability and attitude for the A. Radical and risk for the R. And the right thing for T. So that's it. Go for it. Do it. You've got a link over here. If you need that link, then go to the bottom of the page. On this page, you'll find a link where you'll be able to actually fill that in, or just go ahead and just put it on a piece of paper. This is the thing. And I want you to actually say why you're committing to this particular goal, because it's important to have a why at the forefront. And then I want to share with you really quickly a couple power habits. So first of all, power habits. Power habits will actually see that your one word commitment will come true. And I'll just read this little bit here that I've written here. A power habit is something that you do routinely every day that requires for you to be in massive measurable action. Okay? And these power habits will help you follow through with your commitments. You cannot rely on your willpower or self-motivation. You must put your commitment into practice. And the best way to do that is to build power habits. Willpower is like a muscle, right? Just like that muscle that you're building when you're going to the gym. You're not going to go to the gym and tell your personal trainer that, hey, you know, like I worked my biceps out last year, so I'm good now. He says it's a muscle, right? Your willpower is like a muscle, so you're going to program your willpower. The more you use it, the more you'll gain strength in that way, and you'll build that consistency up. So here's power habit number 1. Ready? Oh yeah, hey, I want to tell you this too. So the most recent research that I've discovered says that 66 days is the amount of time that it takes to actually build a habit. Now some people have said 21, and I've heard 30. 66 days is what I've taken in as the most recent research that I'm listening to, and that's from London, from a university in London. And basically, yeah, it's March 6th if you're counting the days. So basically, you're starting January 1st to March 6th. That would basically be 66 days, okay? So why do you want to know that? Well, you want to actually get yourself into action with this one-word commitment, right? So here's power habit number 1. Keep the word in front of you. You need to keep it in front of you, otherwise it'll be very hard for you to achieve. And that's why I said put those little sticky notes up, you know, so it's just always in front of you, and you want to actually bring it into your consciousness as much as possible. Same type of principle as when you buy a car. All of a sudden you see that car around the road all the time. Why? Because your consciousness is tuned into it. You'll be tuned into your word when it's up there. even better, write a little blurb about it. You know, keep your why for that actual commitment in front of you as well, okay? Power habit number 2, the KISS strategy. Keep it simple, silly. Yeah, you know, keep it simple, you know? Just like don't do this thing. You know, it's one word. You know, don't go writing like 10 paragraphs about it and put those 10 paragraphs up. You know, you probably find it won't be that effective. Number 3, power habit number 3, focus, focus, focus. You know, as soon as we're actually focused, you know, you're bringing your best self into asking yourself like what this commitment is and how you can achieve it. When you're at your best place and your best self, you're able to think more clearly and new insights will come to you, okay? So simple as that. You want to actually be at your best. Power habit number 5. I've learned that getting up early is really powerful for this goal. Why? Because you can actually get up early before your day starts. And you actually get yourself in the zone to focus, to energize, to get to a place of really saying, you know what, this is important, I'm going for it, and just to visualize that word. So for me, just to stop and just like visualize, like what does it look like to be thankful? How does that feel? What are my senses telling me about that? God, what do you want to tell me about this? So how can I just be more thankful and grateful today towards my family, my wife? How can I cherish her? Cool, eh? Power habit number 5, get up early. All right, so you want to center yourself and focus on that power habit by getting up early. Power habit number 6, use the power of words, right? So you want to actually start by using the power of words to actually replace those limiting things with empowering things. So start thinking about that word and the empowering part of it, and then just reduce and minimize the ways where you're actually talking about it in a negative aspect or as a limiting aspect. You'll get discouraged at times and frustrated at times, and using power words or the use of this one word will stretch you and help you to grow, okay? Make rewards critical. So it's important to actually have rewards along the way. So making your rewards part of the journey, part of what's going on, part of life. So that's powerful. So making celebrations and rewards so that you can actually look back on it and say, hey, this is cool. So what's my word for 2015, you might ask? The word is epic. And for me, I knew this word 2 months ago, right? Because I'm tuning in 2 months ago to what my word will be in 2015. And I started getting the impressions because I'm starting to center myself around what that word will be. And I've chose that word as my 2015 one-word commitment. And what does that mean for me? Well, I looked it up in the dictionary. And the word means to go on an arduous journey as a hero, on a legendary journey that's poetic and powerful and legendary.